Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the third installment of Freedom Day and to our keynote panel, which is going to be an incredible treat. If you thought the last one was good, you ain't seen nothing yet, because you are about to have the privilege of hearing one of the most inspiring advocates of freedom and liberty of our time, as well as a great philanthropist and friend of liberty. I came to know Mike Bezos through the Aspen Institute, whose president, Walter Isaacson, will be interviewing Mike. And I first saw you, Mike, at the superb Aspen Challenge, which you've started, where you bring high school kids from the Denver area and then all over the country to respond to challenges issued by people that you bring in. And seeing these kids and the intelligence with which they respond to being called to teach other people about the Constitution or solve problems of the kind we've been discussing today is incredibly inspiring. I also, as I mentioned, just had the great privilege of moderating an Aspen X seminar for teens, which I know you've supported that program. And Walter and I were discussing, there's something about these teenagers, they're able to jump into a constitutional conversation so quickly and engage, and they drafted constitutional amendments regarding the Fourth Amendment and technology quickly and meaningfully and usefully. It's just inspiring to see kids of very different, diverse backgrounds, thanks to your support, coming together to talk about the future of liberty. So I want to thank you for all you've done on that score, and I want to thank you for helping put our pocket constitutions on Amazon, which are also a really great thing, and you've been such a great supporter. We all believe, Mike and I think that just having the document in your pocket and being able to refer to it at all times when you face an important constitutional question in a conversation with friends is a very important thing to do. And you now have the greatest interviewer in America interviewing.
Charlie Rose couldn't make it,
Hardly
so I'm
so.
here.
No, Walter's the gold standard. Interviewing Mike Bezos on freedom and the immigrant experience. Please welcome both of them.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you very much. Well, the immigrant sometimes is the one who best understands that concept of freedom and what America is all about. Tell us about your experience as an immigrant. How did you get here? What did you feel?
All right, good. Thank you. First of all, for allowing me to be here. The conversations have been so unbelievable that I'm over the top already. Doing something that is so, we take for granted, these discussions, these conversations. It's unbelievable. Okay, so go back to 1958, back in Cuba, and I was at that time maybe 13, 14 years old, and I was fine. I was a teenager doing my thing, going to school, minding my own business. There was no thought of ever leaving Cuba. My dad is he owned a lumber mill, which he worked hard at, and that's where I learned my work ethics from. Get up at 5 o'clock in the morning and work until 5 o'clock in the evening, and so it was a good, comfortable life. And then all of a sudden, things changed. It was kind of a topsy-turvy. All of the thought, what you thought was yours is no longer yours. It's been deemed to be taken over and shared with others. And that happens through all industries. All private property disappears. And then as I was, even the schools that I was going to, they got shut down because they were changing the curriculum from the curriculum that we had to one that was more communist oriented. So for a 2-year period, I really didn't have much to do except perhaps potentially get in trouble. And that's when my parents decided that I needed to get out of Cuba.
What age?
The process started when I was 15. It took about a year to get everything going. My brother and my sister were much older than I. I was a surprise of the family. And my brother was a civil engineer, and they wouldn't let him out because he was a professional. My sister was a teacher. They wouldn't let it out because she was a professional. And then my mom and dad said, you know, you got to be the one that gets out, because if they draft you, you go into the army or whatever, then we're all stuck here. If you go out, then we might find ways out. And in those days, this is in 1961, when the process started, they were letting kids go out by themselves, and without any major concern. And the process started, and one of the things, just to show you how, we were talking earlier about how picky people can get. When my parents put an application for my passport, and I was ready to leave, it was obvious that I was going to leave. A group of, I don't know who they were, to be honest with you, but they were some sort of authority. They were in uniform. They came into the house and they inventoried my room, because everything that was in my room at that time had to be there when I left. We couldn't dispose of, even though it wasn't mine. It was, you know, my parents. What, a 16-year-old didn't own much of anything. So, you know, that's kind of the power hungry that people get. And finally, we get a telegram that says, you got an exit for the day after tomorrow. We lived in Santiago de Cuba, which is on the eastern, southeastern part of the island. We had to go to Havana, so we had to hightail it. And my parents dropped me off at the airport. They wouldn't allow them to go inside the airport, so they just dropped me off. And I walked in and went through check-in, and I left, landed in Miami by myself. Fortunately, there was a group of churches and organizations that have gotten together, and they were the ones that were collecting all these Cuban kids that would come out by themselves. And at 16, I was on the older side of the kids that would come out. There were some that were 5, 6, 7. And they would try to find a place for them to stay and to be placed until their parents or their relatives would come out. And so that was, I still remember walking out of the airplane, and somebody's asking me, do you have any family in Miami? I said, no. So you come over here. And there were about 5 or 6 of us. And then there were some boys and girls, and the girls went on one van to some camp, and the boys went to another van to another camp.
You ended up being very successful. Explain how that happened.
Well, fortunately, you know, things just happen. We went to, within 3 weeks of being in this camp, I get a call to come to the office. I walk into the office, and there was a suitcase with a heavy coat on top of it. And I said, ooh, I'm in trouble. And an airplane ticket to Philadelphia. And I was going to Wilmington, Delaware, and they were given scholarships to Cuban refugees, high school in Wilmington, to go to high school. So I landed in Philadelphia. There was somebody here waiting for me, took me to Wilmington, and I went to high school in Wilmington, Delaware. I graduated from there, and you know, it's just one thing after the other. We as parents sometimes don't think that the kids listen to what we are telling them, but they are. And I realized that when I was by myself and I didn't have my parents telling me anything to do, I kept going back and saying, well, you know, what would they tell me to do? So if you're a young parent, just keep doing what you're doing. Some of it will stick. I can guarantee you. So eventually I went to finished high school, and eventually I went to Albuquerque, New Mexico, where there were also given scholarships, university, to Cuban refugees, and I graduated from there. And, well, met my wife, and the rest is history.
Business, yeah. Tell us about the role, I mean, has that made you passionate about the role of education in creating opportunity?
He certainly did, because when I graduated from high school, I didn't have my mom and dad to tell me, you got to go to college, you got to do this. So it was up to me. And I thought that with coming to America with a high school degree, what else do you need? That was until about a year and a half into some tough jobs, I decided, well, maybe I need to go to university. So then the decision was to, and that, after having done that, and obviously you're in the middle, at that point I didn't realize how important it was, but it was years later, and looking back, I said, that having that education is something that once you have that, nobody can take it away from you. They can take your property, they can take your cars, they can take your business, but that education is yours. It's yours to do with it what you want and to utilize it. So it became something that both my wife and I and our kids are passionate about, education.
We've been talking about rights, liberties, freedom, be it the economic rights and liberties we have here or the political rights and freedoms. As somebody who left a place where suddenly those were withdrawn from you, when did you first become aware of the American system of rights and liberties, and how did that affect you?
Well, that became aware very early on, in that the moment we started placing our kids in public schools, it became a realization that, my gosh, public schools in this country are an institution that I don't think it's very duplicated in very many places. It's just an unbelievable gift that we have, and we don't really think about it. We take it for granted. And so it was having, in most other places, you have to be of a certain economic class or you have a certain job in order to get an education. The amazing thing about one of the many amazing things that this country offers is that education for an equality for everybody. And unfortunately, there have been some bumps along the road, but it is there. We need to.
Do you think we're moving away, though, from that notion of the K through 12 education being the great equalizer?
We have been moving away from it, and there is no reason for it. Really, there's absolutely no reason for it. And that's one of the driving forces for us as in our family foundation is to try to get back to that leveling the playing field. You guys talk about it earlier on. Is that as long as the opportunity is there, and this is what I found, that I had the opportunity given to me in this country, and I, for whether on purpose or by pure luck, it worked for me. So I want to make that available to as many people as I can. Make that available. That it's remove as many obstacles as possible from having that same opportunity that we all had.
So how are you using your philanthropy and other things to do that?
So the foundation, I'll give you a quick background. Just back up a little bit. My oldest son, Jeff, we lived in Colombia, Venezuela, and I was there with work, and we get a phone call from him saying, I'm thinking of opening a bookstore on the internet, and I need some money. And we said, he had a sweet job in Wall Street. I mean, it was a wonderful job. And I said, why? You know, and what's the internet? You know, that was kind of the second question. And his mother said, can you do this on the weekends and nights? Don't quit your job. So anyway, we were fortunate enough that we have lived overseas, and we have saved a few pennies, so we were able to be an angel investor, and the rest is history. So when that became, when we were blessed with that fallout, which was, you know, one of the things that Jeff did tell us is, I want you to know how risky this is. And of course, you know, being in business, you know, startups are, they fail 80% of the time. But he said, I want you to know how risky it is, because I want to come home at dinner for Thanksgiving, and I don't want you to be mad at me. And fortunately, it turned out quite well. So he's invited to, even for Thanksgiving, anytime he wants to come in. So going back to your question, the one thing that became obvious, we formed the foundation. Our 3 kids, we have three children. There's 3 spouses. My wife Jackie and I are the directors of the foundation. And when we formed the foundation, there was no question as to the fact that education was going to be the primary focus. And we zeroed in on age 0 to 18. That's our sweet spot, with a great emphasis on 0 to 5. We really feel that if we can get it right in 0 to 5, a lot of the issues that we've been talking about, incarceration for one thing, will not go away, but it will be reduced. And we go through high school. So that's what we're trying to do. We have many different programs throughout the face of the ages of 0 to 18. We also get involved in teaching colleges, because that's high quality teaching colleges, so that good teachers can come back into the pipeline. So that's our involvement in the education field. And again, it's public schools, which charters are included in there. They're public schools, and that's how we are kind of thinking in terms of making it as available to everybody as we possibly can.
Let's go back to the immigrant experience. How do you feel about the way the United States is debating and handling immigration these days?
Yeah, well, it's probably not any different than the way it's been handled many times before. I remember when in the 60s, when the Cubans were coming in, trying to get away from Castro, the same thing was going on in South Florida. You know, what are we going to do with all these people coming in? Of course, you know, a lot of us didn't want to be there to start with, but that's how we ended up. So the conversations about immigration has been around for a long time, and I'm not going to. My problem is not so much how people get to this country. What I'm concerned is what we do with them once they're here. If they're here, the last thing we want to do is keep them down, because I think that what we need to do is for them to become as American as I am, as American as everybody else is. That's what I believe that we need to do. I'll let others worry about how they got here, whether they should have, shouldn't, all that. I'm not going to get into that, Pat.
Tell me your thoughts now with the opening to Cuba. You have family there. You keep in touch with them there.
I do.
You've never gone back since 1960.
No, I haven't been back. You know, it's funny that since last December, when the latest announcement about approaching Cuba was made, you know, the first questions were from my own kids. Hey, what's that? What do you think? What do you think? So I told them, give it time. It's too early. It's way too early. Ask me this question in a year, and then we can discuss it. I still feel that it's way too early. We haven't seen anything on the other side. It's all been one-sided. It's all been from the United States side, the willingness to open up. You can open an embassy. There's nothing wrong with that. I think that's well founded. We need to see what the reaction is from those in power in Cuba, and whether what is going to happen, what's going to be done, is going to be done for the right reasons. Whether it's going to be done, it shouldn't be done for getting American tourists to Cuba to smoke cigars and drink rum and dance Cuban music. That should not be the reason for it. The reason should be to create a better way for those folks that are still left behind. And that's once we get to that point, I'm all for it. There's no reason why not. So, but I just wanted to mention that I was thinking about this the other day. When I was in high school in Wilmington, Delaware, it was during the right after I left in July of '62, and in October of '62 was the missile crisis. So that's when I couldn't go back to Cuba. My parents couldn't come out, so we didn't see each other for a number of years. But during the missile crisis, everybody in my civics class at high school, that's when we had civics class, everybody in the class had a subscription to U.S. News and World Report. And if there was anything about Cuba in that magazine, it was given to me to read it and then to stand up and give a report. The same thing is happening now. It's I need to get back up. I don't mind at all, but it's
yeah. Well, then we'll move back to education. If you could list the 7 or 8 or 5 or 6 things we could do to improve 0 to 18 education, what would they be?
Oh my goodness. Well, one of the things in 0 to 5, what we're trying to do is to reach the parents. We have done a lot of. We have funded a lot of brain research on babies, non-intrusive, high quality brain research using a magnetoencephalography machine, MEG for short, that registers how, depending on how the babies are reacting, what part of the brains are being engaged. As an example, they have this baby, maybe 8, 9 months old, in this huge thing. It looks like a hairdryer from Mars. And the baby's sitting there, the parent is right in front of the baby, interacting, so the baby's not threatened in any way. And on the baby's looking at a screen where there is a postdoc doing some puppets or talking or whatever, and on a TV screen, on a monitor. And the baby's just fascinated, looking at that monitor and just glued to the monitor, and they're registering what's happening in the visual and the auditory and how those connections are being made. And then a couple of days later, they bring the baby back, but this time they bring the postdoc out from behind from the monitor and sits in front of the baby, just like pretty much like you and I are, and they go through the same interaction. But the results are just unbelievable. What goes on, the brain activity is just manifold in terms of the connections that are being made, the synapses that are being connected. It's unbelievable. So we're using that brain research to demonstrate that if we can get or not to demonstrate, but to convey to parents that are too busy to have this information that they are brain builders from the minute that that baby is born. A lot of things that we as parents have taken for granted, the way we raise our kids, there are a lot of parents, and the parents that we are trying to reach that don't have that information. They themselves have not been brought up that way. So they feel like there's nothing I can do. The babies will learn when they go to school at 5 years old. Well, by then it's way too late. That's where the gap, the huge gaps that we have. Actually, they're finding out that the gaps begin when they are 18 months old in terms of the number of words. But it's not the number of words, it's the quality of the words that are spoken and the interactions, whether you're looking at the babies in the eyes, whether you're touching the baby. So we have come up with a way that we're saying, you know, for a busy parent that has 2 jobs and we say you don't need any more time. The time that you have is all the time that you need when you have to bathe the baby, when you change the diaper, when you feed the baby. These are the interactions that you need to have with the baby. So that's what we're trying to do at that age. Obviously, in different stages of the curriculum. We have different programs, and as you know, in high school, our emphasis is in leadership. Programs that we do with the Aspen Institute, because we think that those high schoolers are, we just don't challenge them enough. We don't ask them. Jeff mentioned that he was fascinated by how well they reacted when you ask him to do something. And the problem is we don't ask him. We just say, oh, okay, you know, you don't want to do it, don't do it. I think that that's part of the one. I'm not answering your question. I'm not giving you 1, 2, or 3, or 4 items, but I'm just saying that high schoolers, we need to challenge them. We need to make sure that they get involved, that they put their education to work, that they can see that what they're learning is going to yield something. They can see a result right away, and that's where the Aspen Challenge is designed to do, is one that says, okay, we're going to help you along the way. You pick a challenge, we'll help you. Then you have to, and for those of you, I'm jumping around quite a bit, but it's like water quality or constitution, whatever.
Different projects
that they have to work on. They select it as a team. And again, one of the first things that they have to do is they have to learn to compromise. They have to learn to work as a team. They have to select which challenge. They have to decide which way to do, which is the best way to do. So we're trying to teach them a little bit of what real life is like. And but at the end of the project is amazing, the transformation, the quality of the projects that they come up with in terms of helping or portraying a concept, an idea to the local community, in the neighborhoods or the school about that particular subject. They do a great job at the end of the process. They only have 7 weeks to do this, and this is in addition to their regular schoolwork. And these are regular kids. I mean, these are not selected in any, they're very randomly selected.
So for my last question, I'm going to try to tie together a few things I heard you say and see how, to you, it ties in to what America is all about. In your last answer, you talked about making not just good projects, but making civic leaders, kids who thought about something a little bit larger than themselves and how to work together for the civic and common good. Likewise, when we talked about education, you talked about the opportunity for everybody to get more involved instead of starting off with an unequal playing field. And in some ways throughout it all, you've talked about this notion of what a civic society is. You said we don't teach civics anymore, but in some ways that's what this whole day has been about, which is what what is civics to us? I mean, what is our civic common ground? How do you think about all of that, having come to America and now gotten involved with making sure the next generation can have the opportunities you had?
I think it was also mentioned earlier, to me, civics is civility. It's being able to understand that even though we have differences and we have different desires, and that we need to be aware that our private feelings don't get in the way of others' feelings. So it is a dance that we have to have, whether we like it or not. We are in this together, and how to get that done is something that is not easy. It takes a little of training, if you will. We have to train ourselves. I think that we complain about the lack of movement in Washington, D.C. in terms of getting things accomplished. But a lot of that happens, it starts at the kitchen table. If we have a conversation at the kitchen table in front of our kids that says it's very one-sided, well, that child is going to pick up on that and is also going to be one-sided, one way or the other. So at the kitchen table, we need to be aware that there are ears around that are listening to what's going on, and be aware of, and if it goes all the way from that point as they grow up. By example, we are the ones that need to lead that effort. And again, I'm not sure that I answer your question specifically, but it's it is getting along and knowing to compromise. I think that there is a lot of that needs to be done. We try to get that into the kids' minds as early as possible.
Michael Bezos, thank you very much.
No,
Appreciate
my
it.
pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you. Great. Very, very good.